Chip Tam and football. That's what Pittsburgh does. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the show. Steelers fans, we've got D. Orlando Ledbetter today, longtime Falcons beat reporter down in Atlanta. We're going to preview Steelers-Falcons with him. As always on the show, brought to you by Pella. No better place to get new windows and doors installed in your home than Pella, who can help you save on energy costs year-round. Schedule a free in-home consultation with your local Pella windows and doors to find the right product for your home and budget. Give them a call at 866-593-1560 to discuss your project further. That's 866-593-1560 to get started planning your new windows and doors installation with Pella Windows and Doors of Pittsburgh. And D-Led, thanks for coming on with me, man. I've got my Erie Bayhawks hat on in honor of the Steelers playing the Falcons, considering the now defunct Erie G League team. They were the Hawks affiliate back in the day.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome to know. Falcons and Atlanta's got a lot of different sports teams all over all over North America.
Yes, for sure. I miss going up to Erie for the games, and I was a little bit of a Hawks fan there for a while. But we're not here to talk NBA. We've got Steelers-Falcons week 1, and a lot of overlap between these two teams to kick off the season, and we'll get into some of that. But first, I want to start. I always like to ask an opposing team beat writer for their perspective on the Steelers, because you don't follow them day in and day out like we do. You're not hanging on every word from Mike Tomlin. You don't have some of the preconceived notions or maybe those inherent biases that come with it. What do you make of this Steelers team going into 2024? What's your perception of them from down in the A?
Well, yeah, the A perception is that it's a good team. They went to the playoffs last year. The Falcons have traditionally struggled against the AFC North, formerly the Central. I grew up in Cleveland, so the Steelers ruined my childhood during the Steel Curtain days. I still remember Joe Turkey Jones slamming Bradshaw on his head, which is one of the greatest days in Cleveland Brown history. So, I have to educate them on what they're getting into, the passion of the fans, the terrible towels, and just the fact that they've been able to sustain the winning over decades. And the Falcon fans, marvel at that and want to be that someday.
Absolutely. Well, obviously a big part of it too this year for the Steelers and this current team, they're going to put on the field at the Mercedes-Benz, was it Stadium, Superdome, whatever they call it down there. It's giant. I know that.
Yeah, massive stadium.
Yes, big spaceship looking thing. I remember walking past it when I covered Pitt, Georgia Tech back in, I guess, would have been 2017 or 2018. So enjoyed my time in the ATL. But they've got Arthur Smith as their offensive coordinator and play caller. Obviously, last 3 seasons, he was the head coach of the Falcons. Wasn't a train wreck, I wouldn't say, but it didn't go as well as everybody would have hoped. First, D-Led, I got to ask you, do you still have the Falcons letterhead with your fine on it from Arthur Smith from that press conference a couple years ago?
Yes, I do. We had a good time with that. We raised some money. I'm texting them from Dustin because my wife scheduled the family trip at the start of training camp, and we had all in with our old Packer friends, and from what everybody was coming from everywhere, so I couldn't pull out. I was trying to fly back and forth, but it just didn't work. So I got fined for being late to camp last year, and they matched a $500 donation to the Civil Rights Museum, and so we made some Arthur Blank matched it too, so that made it a $1,500 donation. For being late to camp, and he wrote a letter. It was all official.
So you guys had some fun with Arthur Smith down there, huh? Even though the winning wasn't there, but it seems like he wasn't disliked by the players, and obviously the fans might feel a certain type of way, but he's got a chance to kind of rejuvenate himself now in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, no doubt. We all got along with Coach Smith, and he was in a really, really tough situation, getting a franchise with an aging quarterback that had overspent. The Falcons were Super Bowl contenders, and they started paying everybody. And so, sorry about that. I just knocked over my coffee.
Oh, no, you all right?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Should we pause or should we do it live?
No, we can keep going. No, he was well liked, and it was just a matter of, Matt Ryan got old. They had too much money under salary cap. They played with an $80 million salary cap hit. And then, it was just tough sledding for him here, and it didn't work out in the end.
Yeah, and much like the Steelers, they took a swing on that 2022 quarterback class, and Kenny
Mhm,
Pickett didn't work out here. Desmond Ritter didn't work out down
mhm.
there. It seems like Arthur Smith had a decent say in taking him, but obviously, the quarterback play wasn't where it needed to be, and a lot of guys were cycling in and out for him under center in Atlanta. And it's interesting to me that Russell Wilson and Justin Fields now are going to be his quarterbacks to work with here in Pittsburgh. Was there much talk or much clamoring from Falcons supporters to bring in Russell Wilson for a one-year trial basis, or get the hometown guy in Justin Fields and see what he had to do?
Yeah, there was a lot of clamoring for Justin, not so much for Russell. He's played here at Harrison High in Georgia and then Ohio State. And he beat them pretty bad last year up in Chicago. So, the Bears kind of figured out how to play him later on, looked pretty good beating the Falcons late last year on New Year's Eve, I believe it was. So there was a lot of clamoring for Justin, not so much for Russell. But then the fact that Russell had, I think it was 28, and his touchdown to interception ratio last year, the Falcons would have been excellent for them. So, but they didn't get into that. They looked more long term. They didn't like Justin. They could have had him. They could have had him when they drafted Kyle Pitts. With the 4th overall pick, Fields was sitting right there. So they didn't want him the first time. They didn't want him the second time. So they had two bites of that apple and didn't take it. So now here we are with Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix.
Yeah, that is a quarterback situation that I from up here, I can't really make heads or tails of it. I remember sitting in the Steelers media room on draft night for the first round, just stunned out of my mind when Michael Penix Jr. was the pick for Terry Fontenot and the Falcons. I mean, what can you explain to me? I mean, obviously it's regular season now. This isn't like, hey, Justin Fields and Michael Penix, you guys will go play at the indoor facility in a scrimmage with the backups, and we'll have Kirk Cousins and Russell Wilson do it. No, what is the ultimate long-term plan here? I mean, it's got to be an awkward spot for Kirk Cousins. And how's everybody handling that down there in Flowery Branch, Georgia, where the
Yes,
Falcons practice?
right. Yeah, everybody's been real professional, saying all the right things, but Kurt and his agent Mike McCartney kind of slipped out that, hey, we weren't consulted on this. This blindsided us, and once the Falcons said, hey, no, we tried to call. Arthur Blank said they knew about it. So everybody's like just all over the place on it, and now just trying to make the best of what the situation is. Kurt is a quarterback for however how long. He's got a 4-year deal. The guaranteed money runs out after 3. They could cut him on hurt after 3. And then if he gets old fast, and Matt Ryan kind of fell off the cliff at 37. Kirk just turned 36. So Michael Penix is being groomed to be his heir apparent. Whether that's in 26, 27, I don't think they're gonna wait to 28. So that's where they're at now. But everybody's being professional, and it might put a little pressure on Kurt to like, hey, we need to win now, and we'll see if that works out for him.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of the Steelers deal a couple years ago. Quarterback Mitch Trubisky, obviously not as established and not as well compensated as Kirk Cousins, but I feel like at that time he was always kind of looking over his shoulder at Kenny Pickett being there as the first rounder. So I mean, I think that's just human nature that you have to deal with. But we know that NFL teams want to get it right at quarterback above all else, and they will kind of keep taking chances at it and keep throwing resources at it until they find their guy. Let's talk a little bit about this Falcons team. Obviously, new quarterback, new assistants, much like the Steelers, but unlike the Steelers, new head coach down in Atlanta. Mike Tomlin's the longest tenured coach in the NFL with one team. Raheem Morris, tied with several others for the shortest tenured, considering he was hired this offseason. But he's one of Mike Tomlin's best friends in this industry. They coached together back on those Bucs teams under Tony Dungy on defense. What have you been seeing from Raheem Morris, and what are your thoughts on that relationship with Mike Tomlin? And probably, I'm sure those two guys are going to have some fun doing this weekend, but it's also difficult because you probably don't want to coach against that guy because you don't want to beat that guy because you love him so much.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Coach Morris referred to it as the relationship for the week is gray matter. They got a job. He's got a job to do, and so
That
that's how
sounds like a Tomlinism. Mike Tomlin always
Oh,
says
I'm
nameless
sure.
gray faces on the opposite side. So that's Raheem's spin on it, I guess, is gray matter.
Yeah, he probably stole it from Coach Mike. No doubt about it. And then I understand Coach Mike's like, hey, I'm not. People working on all these feature stories for Raheem. He's like, I'm not gonna be giving him all these platitudes, and I got to see him in week 1. So they're kind of button up their friendship for a week, and then after this week, they'll probably go back to being the best buds and so forth. But for 1 week, they kind of gotta distance themselves from that. And they go way back before Tampa Bay to their time in college at William and Mary, when they would take Dan Quinn with them to Mike Tomlin's frat parties and stuff with his Kappa Alpha Psi buddies.
Oh, geez, that would be a sight to see back in the day. I am sure those three guys, and I know Sean McDermott, the Bills coach, was on
Right.
that team as well back with Mike
Yes.
Tomlin. So, so that'll be an interesting subplot to all of this, and obviously, I mean, it's just a case of a lot of players who played under Arthur Smith who kind of know his tendencies as a coach. Arthur Smith knows a lot of these guys on defense for the Falcons, and Cordero Patterson made the trip here with Smith from Atlanta to Pittsburgh, along with some guys like Michael Pruitt, Scotty Miller, and potentially the Steelers' number 2 wide receiver this year, Van Jefferson. Why did he never really catch on last season in Atlanta? And are you surprised that a team is rolling with him as their second fiddle in the receiver room in 2024?
Yeah, they tried. They tried to get him as their deep threat, and he had quarterback issues there, and I thought separation issues. Here quarterback issues here, and I thought he had separation issues. He wasn't. I never saw him, other than on a couple deep balls. I never saw him open like they were missing him or nothing. So he was pretty well covered up. But Pruitt was a tough kid. You can get some tough red zone play from him. And Scotty Miller, he was kind of deep threat too. They got him the ball in a couple games, but it was just inconsistent with the passing attack here. So those two guys may be all attention will go to Pickens. So both of those guys should have some one-on-ones, and should be able to get open against zones and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they're going to be used differently here. I mean, I think George Pickens is going to be someone who stretches the field. Calvin Austin, he's small, but he's got that 4.3 speed. He'll probably be able to stretch the field, whereas Scotty Miller and Van Jefferson may be getting open underneath. And Pruitt, too, if he's in the lineup. He had a good catch from Justin Fields downfield in their last preseason game. So a lot of Falcons flavor here with the Steelers. A little bit of Steelers flavor over in Atlanta with Ray-Ray McCloud. How has he looked in training camp and in preseason? Because I know, one thing that Steelers fans are worried about is their slot corner position. They've got an undrafted rookie starting there. I assume Ray-Ray McCloud will be the slot guy for the Falcons, and he wasn't super productive as a pass catcher here, but he might be one of those mismatches and have an opportunity to break out there in his first game in Atlanta.
Yeah, no doubt. Ray-Ray's had a good training camp in spring. They've anointed him the slot job. Ike Hilliard did, former Steeler assistant. Has been close to Ray-Ray since he was there. And, they think that he's developed as a receiver over time. Had a catch in the Super Bowl last year for San Francisco. Yeah. So they are real comfortable with him as a slot receiver. I haven't seen them feature him a lot. In practice, it's real hard nowadays when they don't tackle. It's been more about getting it to Bijan, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. Ray-Ray's been kind of afterthought. So, but this is the first time they'll get the game plan and look at matchups and may go to him a little bit more than we have been seeing. in this exhibition season. But yeah, he's the slot guy. Doesn't look out of place. So I know he was a returner, but we'll see if they can exploit that matchup.
Absolutely. And the Steelers' new returner this year, a couple years after Ray-Ray McCloud did that job, is Cordero Patterson, coming over after those 3 seasons with the Falcons that I think basically rehabilitated his NFL career, getting with Arthur Smith. And, I know that at times he may have been much maligned because he was getting the rock instead of some of the other younger guys, the high draft picks. How much do you think Cordero Patterson has left in the tank? And can you envision him with this new kickoff role, hitting a seam, finding some daylight, and taking off downfield at Mercedes-Benz for old time's sake this weekend?
Yeah, I really thought he was going to retire. He didn't show much last year. I didn't think there was a lot left in the tank, and if teams couldn't kick off, he wasn't much value. They didn't use him as a wide receiver like they did the first year. So yeah, I was thinking, no big deal. He might retire. Then this kickoff rule comes about, and I'm like, oh, he better get back in shape because he's certainly a terror in that. And if they could spring him past that first line, I don't know if he can take it to the house anymore, but he'll definitely rip off some 40 and 50 yarders the way this new kickoff rule is set up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because he didn't do it at all in the preseason. He did score a 32-yard rushing touchdown in Detroit against the Lions. That was probably the most juice we've seen from him since he came off the non-football injury list. He pulled a hammy training this offseason. So, yeah, we'll see if he's still got some juice in those, 32-year-old legs against his former team. I think sometimes for players, maybe even more than coaches, you feel that revenge factor. And, Cordero Patterson will want to try to win one for his buddy Arthur Smith if he gets any carries, gets any touches on offense behind Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. All right, last thing I'm going to ask you about the game is, do players feel different without Arthur Smith being there? Does it feel, I think this is always kind of a storyline when a coach leaves or even a coordinator. We're getting it up here with the Steelers offense. Matt Canada's gone, Smith's in. Everybody feels refreshed on the offense. Is there that kind of vibe down there in Atlanta? Albeit I know there's a lot of guys who weren't there last season, let alone the last 3.
Yeah, it's a different vibe. Raheem's come in with a little bit more upbeat approach, more letting his coaches do the coaching. He's more CEO and enjoying moving around and so forth. So, but now we'll see once everything starts, where he'll be at as a former defensive coordinator who did learn the offensive side under Dan Quinn here. But yeah, the vibe, we get the vibe from the players is that, hey, yeah, it's refreshing. He corrects us, but it's not, he's not, real derogatory and so forth. So we're getting that kind of, clean air type of feel that, things might have been, a little bit, more pressing under Coach Smith, which is understandable. People demand in different ways. And then Raheem's going to definitely, at least from when he was the interim coach here, he didn't have any problems with, saying guys didn't do a good job or guys weren't accountable or that was, bad play. So he doesn't have any problems with, he's not trying to protect his players. He's going to make his demands. And if you don't meet him, you're probably going to be losing your job. So we'll see if he's that type of coach. And, the whole players coach thing runs with him. He had that in Tampa for the first time around. And so we'll see if he's matured enough to still be the players coach, but hold his guys, in line for when the play is not up to par.
Well, certainly an interesting test week 1 with the Steelers for Raheem Morris. Should I draft Bijan Robinson in fantasy? D-Led, if people are having their drafts tonight or tomorrow night, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. What I've seen is a lot of Bijan this summer, so it's going to start with him because this line can't drop back 40 times a game and throw it all over the field. So Bijan's going to be a big part of what they do, and he's in that group with Jamar Gibbs, and I dabble in the fantasy world. So yeah, fifth, fourth, yeah, I do it. I pull the trigger. He had 1,400 yards and 8 touchdowns when he kind of didn't know what he was doing. So yeah, I would think I don't know if he can get to Christian McCaffrey type numbers, but that's what they're talking down here.
Absolutely. I'm sure you've been getting that question a ton this offseason and preseason. All right, last thing before I let you go. What should I do this weekend in Atlanta? Where should I go? Should I go to Coca-Cola World? Should I walk down by the Olympic Centennial Park? What's on the docket for me or for any listeners and viewers who might be making the trip?
Yeah, those are all good. Martin Luther King's house is a good stop. Ebenezer Baptist. Johnny's Underground, if you do the nightlife thing.
Not me. I'm not doing that, but for those who might, all right, that's good to know.
Then the Atlanta Fish Market, if you like some good seafood, and then Cam Newton's got a cigar bar if you're in the cigar world, and Fellowship is downtown right by the stadium. So whatever you need to do in Atlanta, you got a lot of options.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I've only been there once, but enjoyed my trip there. It was a lot of fun. I'm sure I'll see you down in the press box there on Sunday. Really appreciate it. D. Orlando Ledbetter, longtime Falcon scribe for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Thanks, everybody, for checking out the Chip Hammond Football Show here from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I'm Steelers beat writer Brian Batko. We'll be back with plenty of shows, plenty of articles this week to get you ready for Steelers-Falcons kicking it off week 1. Thanks. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.